Hello, I am Jeff Lazell. I am the Technical Sales Manager at X-Rite Color Management, and welcome to our webinar. So if you're joining us here today, I know that you're an image maker who's serious about file quality and accurate color representation. It's time to start taking control of the color management in your workflow, as well as all the devices in that workflow. So to do that, we look to this device, the i1Display Pro. Now I know this device may look tiny, but it is a very powerful device for creating custom profiles for your monitor, your projector, and now your mobile device. And I'm going to take you through all of that step by step today. So to begin, let's start with the monitor.
Alright, so here we are in the home screen we're going to see when we first launch the i1 Profiler. Now let's just go over what all the little buttons are here and what the information is that we're being told. So first here, the most important one is user mode. This software has a basic and an advanced function. So you can see we're in basic right now, and we shift into advanced, the workflow selector comes up and gives us a lot more options. If we're in basic, the workflow selector gives us less options. So basically, the basic setting gives you wizards to carry you through the processes. And the advanced setting lets you create your own workflows or use the ones that we've saved for you already. We're going to start with basic today, and then we'll go back and I'll show you what's different about the advanced mode. Shifting back into basic, you can see here printer profiling and scanner profiling are in demo, as well as over here you can see that displays are all checked, display quality is checked, and as is projector, but the RGB CMYK printer checking and scanner checking are question marks. So this is because the i1 Profiler software actually supports 3 different devices. The i1Display Pro, which is what we're going to be talking about today. You can see it down here, a little drawing of it. Or it supports the i1 Pro or the i1 Pro 2, which looks like these devices. Now today we're just going to be focusing on the i1Display, which does, again, monitors, projectors, and mobile devices. So we're going to be leaving out the other stuff that you get when you upgrade to an i1 Photo Pro for this webinar. Then of course down here you have access to training videos, access to our website, and you can see here check for update should be on just to make sure your software stays up to date. Now let's begin with the most important part of any visual workflow, the display. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to choose display profiling. Now, first thing you should notice is that the entire time there's going to be a help menu up. So any choices you have to make over here will be explained over here. Now the first part is to select the display and technology type. So you can see that there's 2 of them here because I have an external display attached to my MacBook Pro. Over here the color LCD, you can see this is a wide gamut, CCFL. And over here is BenQ that I have attached, and that is just a CCFL. Now this stuff here, LED, OLED, plasma, cold cast fluorescent, which is what CCFL stands for, this is going to be determined by your video card. The software is actually going to check what kind of device is attached and give the correct setting automatically. This is just where you choose what display you want to profile first. So we're going to start with the BenQ, and as I select this, the software is actually going to move over onto the external display. Alright, next it's going to ask you to set a white point. So you can see here we have built in 50, 55, 65, and 75, as well as native and the ability to do daylight temperature and basically dial in your own. Now, D65 is defaulted there because that is basically the standard for photographic work. But you could also choose D50 if you're going to be viewing your prints in a standard viewing booth. Now again, this is going to be explained in detail over here. Next is the luminance. So again, there's presets built in for the luminance. 120 is the default, again, because this is the most widely accepted recommended general purpose setting for photographic work, but you can even dial it in wherever you want using the custom setting. Or you can set it to measure the ambient light in the room to make sure that you're set up appropriate for the room you're going to be working in. Today though, I'm going to choose 120. Now, ambient light smart control, you can actually adjust the profile based on ambient light in the room, compensating for the influence of the environment you're in. And we're going to choose that today. And you can see also over here, we give you a graph, and if you change any of these, this will actually move around. So if I were to go to 80, you can see the luminance is reflected down here, as well as the white point will move depending on what I choose. Now we're going to go to next. So you can see here the instrument is attached, and down here, hardware setup. Automatic display can show ADC. So the software is going to check with your video card and the monitor you have attached to see if ADC is supported. And what that means is the device will actually take control of the device, of the monitor, and set it up appropriately. And if that's not selected, that means your monitor does not support that, or your video card does not support that. And you also have the ability to adjust brightness, contrast, and RGB gains manually if you want to dial it in using controls on the front of your display. Not all displays have this, so it's not checked by default, and we're going to leave it unchecked today because my laptop does not have that. So next over here, this is the patch set, number of colors we're going to be checking, and then we're going to choose Start Measurement. So this is the ambient light measurement step. As you can see over here, it wants you to place the i1 on the surface that you're working on. Now the only trick to this is you should not have it directly in front of the monitor because it will read the monitor's light as the room's light. So just put it off to the side, click Next. It read the room, and now you need to remove the ambient light diffuser and hang it over the monitor. You want it to be in the center of the monitor as pictured, because that's where you're going to get your most accurate reading. And again, you want it hanging flat. There is a counterweight on the USB cord that'll help you do this. And then hit Next. And the i1 is going to begin its battery of tests. So first it's going to optimize the luminance of your display. So it's going to go bright, it's going to go dark, and then it's going to move on to looking for the specific colors that we saw in the patch set. The whole process takes about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on your video card and other issues in your display. Now that the test is finished, remove the device from the screen and replace the ambient light diffuser. Then hit Next. And here we see that all the patches have been checked, and we can hit Next. Now up top, it's going to ask you to name the profile you just made. I usually like to name it something a little bit different, just so I'm not overwriting any of the profiles already existing in case I need to go back. So it was i1 set on basic profile reminder. Now I know that no one likes to be nagged by the computer to do anything, but this part is actually pretty important. Keeping yourself on a regular calibration schedule is imperative, because regardless of the type of equipment or monitor you're using, they all have the same thing in common. They all will eventually lose the calibration you just made. So, for that reason, I recommend that you recalibrate every 2 weeks, at least if you're on a laptop, and at least every 4 weeks if you're on a desktop. And the reason it's more often for a laptop is just the opening, the closing, the moving around, all those sort of things that you do with a laptop seem to kind of expedite it losing the calibration. So I'm working on a MacBook Pro Retina right now with an external display attached, so I'm going to choose 2 weeks. And down here, it's asking you about the ambient light monitoring mode. So, where I usually edit, the lighting is constant, but we know that that's not true for everybody. So, if you work in a room that, say, has large windows, and the ambient lighting in your room is going to change throughout the day, you can actually leave the device attached and turn on ambient light monitoring. And then, at a frequency you set, possibly every 10 minutes, the device will check the room and either notify you if there's a significant lighting change or automatically update your screen. Next, over here, hit Create and Save Profile. Now, what we have is a bunch of different ways to see what we just did. First, of course, is before and afters. And they're split up by high key and low key in different colors so you can actually go through. Now, red popped up first because that's one I always check. You can see there's quite a bit of difference there. Blue is also a good one to check. I had some definite changes in the skin tones. I also like to check high key. And of course the low key to see shadow detail. Watch right in there. Also, over here, you can see a 3D representation of the gamma of your display. You can look at what was our target as far as white point and luminance and contrast ratio and what was achieved. You can also see a linear graph of the red, green, and blue coming out of your display for use in comparing purposes. And then again, we're back to the photos. That concludes the display profiling process on basic, but I'm going to go to our home screen now and shift into advanced and show you what's different. So first over here, you can see that we now have a workflow selector, and we have different things that we can actually do to our display, as well as the projector. And we can switch to saved workflows. So if you were, for instance, going to calibrate your display to ntsc or PAL or rec for video work, you would go into workflow selector and choose one of these. So now you can see that we have profiling, quality, and uniformity. So let's go back through profiling really quick to see what's changed. So again, just like before, we have our two monitors, white points, luminance, contrast ratio, which we can now change. And we also have something here called flare correct, where you can actually use the device to read the light falling on the screen and compensate for any sort of flare. This is very useful with the new Macs that have a very shiny screen, like for instance the MacBook Pros or the iMacs. And the way you would do that is you would turn it on here, and then in the profiling process you would first hang the device over like you normally would, but then hold it about 12 inches away from the screen and let it do its reading. You also have ambient light smart control, just like before. We'll turn on, which again, you take the device in the beginning of the profiling process with the ambient light diffuser over it and place it to the side of the monitor to read the light in the room. Next, you can see here we can actually change the default profile settings. You can change the profile version back to version 2. This is if you were, say, profiling an older monitor that didn't support new profiles. You can change your tone response curve, adjust the gamma, and the profile type. Now these are pretty specific. These are things you'd only want to do if you know what you're doing or you were told to shift out of it for a specific reason. But most photographers will be pretty safe staying into the defaults. Hit next. And here you can see is different. We can actually adjust the patch size to medium and large, which obviously means you can tell it to check more and more colors. So of course, this will make the profiling process longer, but also more accurate. Now, just like before, if I hit start measurement here, it would start the process, check the ambient light as I described, and also do flare correct as I described. But for now, let's go back and look at the other two tests we now have, because from here on out, it's pretty identical to the tests we already ran. So quality. Here you can actually use the device to take health readings on your display and then create reports and trending to keep your eye on the healthier display as well as the color. And you can see here, you can change the patch set type, and also you can change the standard. So here you can see there's CMYKs if you work in graphic design more than photography, but today we're going to choose the X-Rite color checker classic for photo work. And just like in the profiling process, you can choose between the two displays that are attached. And I'm going to choose the BenQ for this, and when I click this, the software will then move over to the appropriate display. And we'll hit next. Now you can see this is a different patch set, but the concept is the same. So when I hit start measurement, remove the ambient diffuser from the lens, just like before, hang it over in the center, hit OK, hit next, and now we're going to go through a different, shorter test where it's looking at these specific colors contained in the Color Checker Classic. Now we can see those colors are checked off. We'll move the device from the screen again and hit, and we can see right away that our BenQ passed the quality test, and look at all of the results as far as our deltas. Now we can save this report, and we can also add this to trending. Successfully added. And so then we hit next. We can watch trend, and this is a relatively new monitor, so I only have a few, actually 2 data points. You can watch the trends of the quality of your display. Alright, so let's go back to the home screen again and take a look at uniformity. Uniformity is an important test to run, especially on large monitors. What this test is going to tell you is if the color you're seeing in the upper left-hand color is the same color you're seeing in the lower right-hand corner. Now, the larger the display you buy, the more likelihood you're going to get variations around the edges. So again, we're going to choose our BenQ, hit next, and then hit start measurement. So we're going to start, just like before, with removing the ambient diffuser from the device and hanging it over the display in the center. And then when you hit next, the target is actually going to move to different segments of the screen after it finishes its test. So you just need to follow along with the instructions and moving the device from target to target and then hitting next. Now that we're finished, go to the next screen for our results. And we can see that we're all green, meaning our BenQ 24-inch monitor passed with flying results. Now, back to the home screen for a few more things. Now, I'd like to move on to projector profiling. So, to begin, just like we did with monitors, let's start with basic. Very similar to before, we're going to select our BenQ PG series projector, and you can also shift white points here. In general, though, you want to stay with the native white point with a projector, unless you're specifically looking to set it to one of these white points, or daylight, for instance. But in general, just keep it on native. So over here you can see, just like with monitor profiling, we have our patch set, and we'll hit start measurement. So remove the ambient diffuser, and it can be used as a stand for the i1, or if you are profiling a screen that you don't have anything you can stand it on in front of, it also has a tripod mount in the bottom. But position it, aiming at the center of the screen, and then hit next. And the first thing it's going to do is attempt to sight in, and if it is directed at the center, it will begin its tests, just like we did for monitor calibration. Our profile has been named for our BenQ projector. You can hit create and save profile. And just like before, we have the ability to check before and afters. Now, magenta and reds are always good ones to check for projectors. Of course, shadows as well. So, I'm going to go back to the home screen. We're going to shift into advanced so we can see what's different. Now, again, profiling and quality have been split. When you go into profiling, you can see the differences. You can create workflows like you can before. And, like we saw before with monitor profiling, you can change the default profile settings. So here, the most important one when it comes to profiling projectors is profile version. Version 2 and version 4. Now, not all projectors can support version 4 yet, so that's why it's important to be able to go back to version 2. I actually usually leave it there for compatibility's sake because people tend to not buy projectors as often as they buy monitors. And, like before, with the monitor, we can change the patch sets to make our reading more accurate, but again, a longer process. Also, just like we could with our display, we can run a quality check on our projector. You can see this is pretty much an identical process to running a quality check on the monitor like we did earlier in the webinar, except this time, obviously, you're going to be setting it up for a projector, and you're going to set it up the same way we did for the profiling with the i1 sitting on its ambient light diffuser as a stand or attached to a monopod or tripod. And you can shift through the same things we did on the monitor side. And this time, these are the colors the projector is going to put out, and the device is going to read to create a very similar chart than we saw before. So you're going to get the report, as well as being able to add that to a trending chart to keep track of the health of your projector. The last and newest feature of the i1Display Pro that I want to go over with you today is its ability to calibrate mobile devices. So, now using our free app, ColorTrue, available in the Apple App Store and Google Play Marketplace, you can now create profiles for iPads, iPhones, and select Android devices the same way we just created it for a monitor or a projector. The first step to creating the profile is making sure that the device you're looking to profile is on the same Wi-Fi network as a computer with the latest i1 profile software installed and an i1Display attached to it. So you can see here that the app is seeing that my MacBook Pro is on the network and it has an i1Display Pro attached to it. So we just select the arrow to the right to create a profile. It's going to connect to the device, and just like we did with a monitor, you're going to remove the ambient light diffuser, place it on the target, and as soon as it registers that it's on the screen, it's going to begin making a profile by going through several colors and shades, as well as going bright and going dark. Once the battery of test is over, you'll be greeted with a screen letting you know that your device has been calibrated. And also, the profile you created has been uploaded to the cloud. Now, this is a little bit different than the way we calibrate a monitor or a projector on a computer. When we run a calibration on a computer, all the changes are saved at the video card level, which means that profile is universal to the computer. This level of calibration is not available on mobile devices. We simply cannot write to the video cards in an iPad. So to get around this, we upload the profile to the cloud and store it there. So the next time you open the app, that profile is pulled down and applied. The benefits to this are actually twofold. One is that the calibration is not universal to the device, which means if you use your iPad for something else besides photography, say watching a movie or reading a book, the calibration we created for photography will not be applied. Another benefit is that other apps can now access that cloud and utilize the profile you created inside of ColorTrue. For instance, CamRanger, which is a wireless DSLR control app, which features a live view, can now access that cloud and pull down the profile created in ColorTrue and apply it to their live view function, so they're now color calibrated as well. And there's going to be more and more ColorTrue aware apps coming in the near future. We know that most photographers use their mobile devices as a sort of digital portfolio. They're a very good way to show photos to potential clients or other photographers. And now you can do that on a properly calibrated screen. ColorTrue, as well as giving you the ability to create profiles, gives you an updated image gallery that pulls photos from your iPad and shows them using the profile you created. Also gives you the ability to do a few things. So first, you can see the difference between a calibrated and an uncalibrated screen. Now, the most drastic difference you're going to see switching between these two is going to be in highlight and shadow detail. Mobile devices tend to have very contrasty screens. So your blacks get crunched and your highlights get turned up quite a bit. So now you can see, after the screen's been calibrated, you get a lot of that detail back. We also give you the ability to shift between color spaces if you use a camera connection kit or a third-party app to bring in raw files in color spaces other than using srgb. Also gives you the ability to control the ambient light compensation depending on where you're going to be viewing the photos. And also you can shift through white points to D50 and the native of the device. Also give you the ability to simulate prints, because now you know the screen is properly calibrated. You can use paper profiles to give customers a good idea of what this image would look like printed on many different substrates.
All right, I hope that gave you guys a good overview of the profiling process for monitors, projectors, and mobile devices. And what we're going to do right now is move on to answering some of your questions. So you just check the feed. Can this product calibrate multiple monitors? It's a question I get a lot. This device actually has a specific wizard built in for calibrating multiple monitors, so it'll do a very good job of making two monitors match together. But there are two things you need to keep in mind when you're looking to profile more than one monitor. The first and most important one is to make sure that the video card you have installed supports it. You need what's called the ability to support a dual LUT, or lookup table. If the video card you have can only have one LUT, then we can only write to that one LUT, and you can't calibrate two monitors. So I know most Mac computers have the ability to support two lookup tables, but it's something you should look up online to make sure before you even try calibrating two of them. The other one is, a lot of people try and calibrate monitors of multiple brands, and we will calibrate them perfectly together, but once you've done that, you might notice one holds the calibration longer than the other one. So, first step, of course, is to make sure they're both warmed up to their optimal, so leave them on for about 10 minutes, calibrate them, and then really you're just going to have to keep an eye on one to see which one wanders first, and then adjust your calibration schedule. Let's see. Another one I get pretty often is, can this product calibrate TVs? So, All of our calibration is done at the video card level, and that means that to calibrate a TV, you'll have to have a computer attached. We cannot write directly to any of the settings on the television. So, like I said, the settings go to the video card, and if you were to remove the computer from the TV, the calibration would go with the computer. And again, remember that our calibrations are meant as a proofing standard, so this isn't a product you want to use to, say, calibrate a home theater or anything like that. Let's see. What are the main differences between the ColorMonkey display and the i1Display Pro? Well, the main differences are this device we showed today, the i1, is faster, more thorough, and more customizable. You can see when we went through the software, there were a lot of different options to check. And the way I like to put it is the ColorMonkey display manages your color, and the i1Display Pro lets you take control of your color management. Let's see. Will this product help me if I send all of my work out to a lab? The answer is a resounding yes. Like I mentioned, we're calibrating to what's called ICC standards. And no matter what device your lab has to calibrate their monitors, it's going to that same standard. Same with their printers. So calibrating your monitor gives you the confidence to know that what you're seeing on your screen is what your lab is going to see when they receive your files. All right, there we go. If I have a wide gamut monitor, do I need to calibrate differently? So monitors today are coming more and more with the ability to show more and more colors. And the answer about calibration is no, it's the same process. Calibration doesn't change on the amount of colors. Again, we're just here to make sure that those colors are up to the ICC standard. So I calibrated this laptop in front of me with the i1, and it is one of the brand new Retina screens, which is very wide gamut.